And here we are on a not so sunny Sunday morning in August, but it's it's a nice day. So we're off out for a ride on the Commando. So this is a 1975 Norton Commando 850 Mark III. So the last of the Commandos, the last iteration, and this one we've got. We've got electric start. We've got disc brake at the front, disc brake at the rear as well, and we've got a left foot gear change, so we've got the brake on the right. Okay, and this is a Roadster. Roadster's got a smaller tank. The Interstate have the bigger tank. And then there's also the High Rider, which is like a sort of chopper version. The only difference between the versions is that you just change the tank and the side panel. So if you want to make this an Interstate, or I think maybe to change the seat as well. I think maybe change the seat as well. I'm not sure, to be honest. But everything else is exactly the same. Obviously, for the High Rider, you change the bars as well. But this is a Roadster, so it's got a smaller tank. I like that. Find it a little bit neater. Obviously, less practical in terms of long distance, but I mean, for us, for tootling around Derbyshire, it's great. So yeah, I rebuilt this. What was it about? It must be about 6 years ago now. Can't remember. So it's all rebuilt, all stainless steel and everything. It really needs a bit of a service, and that desperate for a service. How many have I done? I've done 543. I've not serviced it since I rebuilt it 6 years ago. I hate to admit that, but that's the way it is. And I keep saying I'm not taking this out again until I service it, but last time I said that was a year ago, but I just haven't had a chance to get it up on the bench, and so I will do it this winter. I mean, other people's bikes basically, and they've taken priority. So yeah, so it's all pretty standard apart from stainless steel, but I've put an earlier air filter on, because the later Mark III air filters are massive and pretty ugly really. So that's an air filter off a Mark II, a ham can filter as it's called. It looks like a can of those weird shaped D-shaped cans of ham. We've got Premier AML carbs on because they're easy to clean if they block. And one thing about AMLs is they do block easily. So always worth, or get your original carbs. You can get them serviced, get them drilled out, so that there's basically what it is. There's a screw on the other side of the carb that you can take out to clean out the pilot jet. That's on Premiers, or you can get yours converted. You'll just find it's blanked off on a standard carb, and you have to have it drilled out and put a removable screw put in, so you can clean the pilot jet out. Yeah. So what have I done? So it's all stainless steel, mud guards and so on. And then I've also put, I've let into the headlight, I've let an oil pressure gauge in. I find that really good. Now, some people call them worry gauges, and to be honest, since I fitted this, I find it the opposite. It's a reassurance gauge. I know if I've got oil pressure or not. It's just glance down. Yes, I've got oil pressure. The actual what the oil pressure in is, I wouldn't worry. I think that's what people worry about, is that when the engine gets hot, the pressure drops. When I start, this will go straight up to 70. It will go up to just off the gauge at 70. And then I think at normal running, we're down. I'm trying to remember. I'll try and put the camera on it when we're riding along. But it goes down to about 40, I think, at normal running, at about 3,000 revs when it's really hot. And then you'll get down to sort of about 10 tick over when it's hot. I say, I don't worry so much about what the reading is. It's just that, have you actually got oil pressure? That's what you're worried about, and so that's why I actually find it a reassurance gauge. If you start worrying about what the actual pressure reading is, then yeah, you might get a bit stressed, because when it's really hot, the pressure does drop. But we'll have a look at it. I'll see if I can put the camera on it as we ride along from time to time to see what the pressure is. Yeah, it's electric start. I've got an uprated electric start because they never really worked properly on these when they were new. So mine's got an extra brush. It's a 4-brush starter, and that's just about enough to to kick it over, turn it over and start. What I might do at some point is change it for an uprated starter. That's a standard starter converted to 4-brush, so that's a lot more powerful, but only, so I might uprate it again to a bigger starter at some point that will really spin the bike over. Luckily, this is a really good starter, this bike, so it just, and it starts straight away, so generally it's fine. If it doesn't start, then after a few turns on the engine, then the starter gives up. Yeah, good. Anyway, here we are. Of course, I've got an uprated disc. This isn't a standard disc. This is a big uprated floating disc on the front, which is great. Apart from that, I mean, it's pretty standard. It's all stainless steel and everything, but I haven't really uprated it that much. I put all new clutch plates in, and but it's standard compression, standard bore, pea shooter silencers, which I love. And what I love about this bike is the torque. It's only got 4 gears, which even by the standards of the time is only 4 gears, but it's got so much torque that you can just pull away just about in any gear. You don't have to flick it up through the box or down through the box. It will pull away. So it's quite relaxing to ride in that respect. Anyway, enough talk. We'll get off for a ride. As I say, at some point I'll try and we'll try and have a look at the oil pressure gauge as we go along, and so you can see what kind of pressure we've got. Like I say, when it's cold, then I don't know if I can show the pressure cold. Can I? It's all right. No, it's all right. I'm just worried about starting up and messing about with the camera and that. Here, it's early in the morning. Don't like to wake people up too much sitting with the bike ticking over, but take my word for it, when it's cold it goes off the gauge when we first start up, and that will quickly go down. Yeah, because so I'm going to mention a controversial thing. So I've got an anti-drain valve fitted somewhere back here. Okay, so the bike doesn't wet sump, because Commandos in particular, they're well known for wet sumping. That's when all the oil in the tank drains into the engine. Now, this being a Mark III, it's actually got this lump here is for the anti-wet sump valve, but they really don't work well. So I've fitted an inline anti-sump drain valve, an anti-drain valve, which works brilliantly. And it opens by, when you start the engine, it sucks the valve open. But there are people say, oh blimey, they're really dangerous, blah blah blah. Well, that's really why I've got the oil pressure gauge fitted, and I know I've got oil pressure. And to my mind, they can be more dangerous not having one fitted, because what happens is they do actually wet some, just in a matter of days, you'll lose a load of oil. And after a couple of weeks, all the oil, and I mean all the oil in the tank, will go into the engine. So there's none left in the tank at all. And so then you start the bike, and because it will start even wet sumped, but then you've got no oil in the tank, so there's no oil feed to the big ends. There's, ironically, the oil's in the engine, but there's no actual oil pressure going to the main bearings and the big ends and so on. So you're running the bike for 30 seconds, a minute, I don't know, however long it takes to pump the oil back into the tank, and then from the tank up to the big ends and that. So I think you're actually, it's more risky doing that than having a valve fitted, in my opinion. So especially with the someone's alarm on a Sunday morning, the car alarm, you can probably hear that. That'll go down well with the local populace. Yeah, so so that's why I've got the oil pressure gauge fitted. Right, well, I think with that car alarm going, it's about time for me to shut up and get on the road. Oh yeah, and now the car alarm has stopped. Just a couple of little things. Of course, it has electronic ignition fitted, tri-spark in my case, because I love tri-spark. It's the best. It's much more expensive, but I think it's the best, and I fit them to all my bikes. Never had a problem with them. And we've got an uprated regulator rectifier, so the Xena diode that they've gone. So we've got I think it's a power box, Boyer Branston power box regulator rectifier, a modern one, and an uprated battery, an AGM battery, which gives us as much power as possible to the starter motor. GS's. Oh, we've just got a Harley coming there. And we've got to try and bother. And there. Just do a bit of commentary on this fabulous. Of course, I'll give you the royalties. So, it is indeed an RD 350 with. I'll just point out the features: removable chain guard. A friend's come out on this, and he's had an eventful ride, but hopefully he'll get back. He'll get back okay. But it's a great bike. Rear sets, nice rear sets. And here's the Commando. Yeah. Look at holding its own a bit, I think. Not bad. What else we got? A few bikes. There's not many classics today. Yeah, a lot of modern bikes today. There was a Triumph Bonville flat tracker, but I missed that. That's gone now. There we go. There's the owner of the 350 there. Still smiling. Still going. Oops. Better put that back properly. Good. Right, anyway, we'll be mounting up and going back soon. Everything going well on there. Going well. I've had the gearbox. I've got a bit of a stiff gearbox. I better check the oil on that. It seems to be a bit. The gearbox is normally really good on this, but that's been a bit notchy, so I'm not sure. Need to sort that out. But it's a lovely ride. I'm really glad I came out on it. I've really enjoyed the ride. So anyway, we'll see how we get on. Going back. Oh, and the oil pressure, yeah. So at when the engine's really hot, 3,000. Where am I? 3,000 revs, getting about 42 oil pressure, which is great. That's when the engine's really hot. It goes down to about, I think it's about 12, 15, something like that, on tick over. So it's great. What a great ride that was. I really enjoyed it. The bike was going great, and yeah, really glad I went out now on the bike. And even though I've not serviced it, well, I serviced it once just after rebuilt it, just after it was run in, but I've not touched it since. And so considering that, it's going really, really well. And yeah, so I'm really glad I went out. The only thing was that if you watch this near the start of the video, was the throttle sticking open, full throttle, going up that hill. God, it scared the life out of me. I don't think I've ever actually given this full throttle. I go fast on it, but I've never actually given it absolute full throttle before now. So I'm going up that hill, and I just suddenly thought I'm gonna blast it, and so I just gave it full throttle, just for a few seconds, and then the throttle jammed on, and it was a very scary experience. I'm going up and thinking, crikey, there's like a pull-in a few hundred yards up the road, and I'm thinking that, but the engine's racing away, and I'm thinking, what can I do? Do I turn the engine off? I'm pulling the clutch in. Of course, pull the clutch in, the engine hits about sort of 7,000 revs, and mine's racing, and of course the corners are coming up, and the bike's shooting ahead. Your mind's racing, but then just as I was getting ready to turn the engine off and like coast into the sort of lay-by, and then bang, the throttle snapped shut again. Phew. And it was fine ever since. I think what happened was I've never actually given the bike full throttle before. So what actually happened was the slide on either one or both, I'm not sure, of the carbs stuck at the top of the body. The throttle just stuck open, actually in the carburettor. And or either one or both, I don't know. But because with a combination of things, I've never actually used the top end of the carb fully before, and also, of course, the bike's been sitting here. I know it's August now, but I say over winter. It has been over winter and stuff, and it's very, very slightly damp down here in the basement, and maybe a bit of condensation or whatever in the top of the body. I don't know. But whatever the case, it jammed on. It's never happened to me before, and I can assure you, it's a unsettling experience. Suddenly going along full throttle, and then you close the throttle and it doesn't close, and the bike's just going hell for leather. You think, oh, your mind's racing. What's the best way of dealing with it? But yeah. Apart from that exciting little episode. It was a very relaxing but exciting ride, because if you want it, there was a couple of times when I opened the bike up and it was great. And then a lot of times when I'm just tootling down the back roads, and that's great as well. So, yeah, lovely. Could have done with a bit more sun. That's always the case. But, but a lovely ride. So, and the throttle is now working properly. So all is good.